I've been doing coding assignments recently, and I was asked to make a command line program. I want to share with you some ways in which I did this in today's video. We'll be using Swift, so make sure you have Xcode installed if you want to follow along. My name is Ricky, and welcome to the Dev Method. Yeah, so we're going to be using the package manager that Swift comes with, and it's just a command line utility called Swift. If you want to check if you have it installed, here's what I would do. I would just type in Swift -- version, see what comes up. So this is what I have. It says Swift driver version 1.127.14.1. Actually, Apple Swift version 6.2. All right, I don't know. The first one sounded like an IP address, but anyways. Yeah, so in order to do this, let's just get started here and let's name the project. So the first thing you do is just create a directory and then go into that directory. So let's just call this YouTube. Creative name, right? Okay, go into YouTube. There we are. So let's take a look at this directory and what it contains. It contains nothing. All right, so the first thing that we're going to learn is how to create the package. So we'll do Swift package init. Next thing we need to do, though, before we press enter, we need to give it a type. And we want this to be an executable. So here we go. It is Swift package init and then -- type. And we're writing executable. Okay, it did some stuff for us. Now, if you want to learn more about this package init, what you would do is you would do Swift package init and then -- help. All right, here's everything it has to show. It's on the screen now, but you go check it out for yourself and see what's there. But we could do a library, we could do an executable, and we could do a tool. So notice here, I chose executable. So it's a package with an executable, and then there's tool. So we're basically making the one that's the tool, but I want to show you how to build this from the ground up so you can learn a little bit more about how this works and how it's structured. So with that, let me open up my text editor of choice, and I'll just guide you around. So first you have the package.swift. That's going to be an important file. We have the git ignore, which doesn't really help us in this case, but then we have sources, and then we have YouTube, and then we have youtube.swift. Easy enough, right? We have the package. Let's open that up. Here's the name. It's called YouTube. And then here's the target executable, which is, again, YouTube. All right, so in order to show you the commands I'm running and look at the code at the same time, I'm going to split my window real quick. All right, so here we are. Got the package source file on the right, and on the left-hand side is just another shell. And this is where we're going to run some commands. So we've added absolutely nothing to this project, but if we did Swift build, this is a command here. You got building the package, and it's complete. So it doesn't run it. But now let's do Swift run, and we'll see something. There it is. So it did planning the build, and then it did something about write Swift version. But then we have here, it built the product, and it was successful. So the first build was 0.73 seconds. The second build was 0.1 seconds. The reason for this is that it found all the source files in the project and it said nothing's changed, no need to do anything else, but just run the application. So if you were to do Swift run without the Swift build command first, you're essentially saying build something if it's changed and then run the application. And then from here it says hello, comma, world, exclamation point. So where is that? So back in our sources here, it found this. It found this file and it found this at main. Okay, so let me take this out. I'm going to go here. I'm going to make a new file, just main.swift. I'm going to put that contents of that file in here. Okay, and I'm going to delete this. All right, so all we have now, if you take a look here from the sources, we just have the main.swift, and within the main.swift, we have here this YouTube. So let's see what happens if we were to build again. Swift build. All right, notice this time it took 0.35 seconds. So not much has changed except we moved some of the source code into a different file. But if I was to run, am I going to get hello world again? Let's try it. Boom, we got hello world. All right, this is the project. This is the plain thing that I want to start with. Let's go from here and let's upgrade this. So the next thing I want to do is add a dependency to this project, and we're going to add the argument parser. And if you take a moment, look at what's on the screen here. This is the website for it. It is maintained by Apple. But essentially what we're going to do is add the dependency, like so. We're going to use a slightly different version. We're going to use the latest version because why not? Small enough package. Then we're going to add changes to this target. And we're going to say that the dependencies here are the argument parser from the package Swift argument parser. So let's do that now. So here I am in the package.swift. Let's paste that in. And I said I was going to do a different version. So let's do 0.61. Yeah, cool. Now let's do the dependencies here. All right, so we got it pasted in here. We have the dependencies for the target, and then we have the package itself. Next good thing just to try is let's build it. Swift build. You know what, actually, let's build and run just to test both at the same time in one command. All right, now look what it's done. It's gone out and fetched the dependency. It's building that dependency and integrating it with our binary that we're creating. And then it goes ahead and runs the program. Now, if you want to start from scratch or kind of undo some of the stuff that we've done here, we would do Swift package clean, okay? And then we would do Swift package update. There it is, downloading the dependency, and then the Swift build part, Swift build, again, integrates that dependency with our binary and builds our package. So something that has been going on under the hood here is that we actually have, let me make this a little bit bigger for us so you can see this here. We have this .build folder. So in the .build folder, we have a couple of files, and the one that I want to point out to you is actually this debug, which is a link to the specific architecture and then this like debug binary. So that is what's built for us automatically, this debug binary. But if we wanted to build specifically for release, so like a optimized version, we would do Swift build -c and then the word release. And this will create that release. Now the compilation of this takes a tiny bit longer. For bigger projects, could take a lot longer. All right, so there it is, 9 seconds to build. So let's do a little test here. So we do Swift package clean. Okay, so that means it takes out the debug build and it takes out the release build, so all those binaries are gone. So let's do Swift build, get the debug build going. Okay, 5.67 seconds. Let's see. Yep, there's debug. See it in there. Okay, so now Swift package clean. So it's about 5.5 seconds, right? So then we'll do Swift build -c release. All right, cool, about 10 seconds, so almost double the time. Anyways, let's move on. All right, so we got our dependency, right? Let's integrate that dependency in here. Let's try and recreate this, but using the argument parser. So import argument parser. That's the first part. All right, so let's ignore this error on line 2 there for a moment, and let's change this to what the interface expects. So now we should get hello world. I'm going to say from parsable command. Now we'll do a Swift run. Nice, there we go. Works, and it fixed our error because it built our dependency. So we got it from the parsable command. Now let's upgrade this. What's the next thing we want to do? Well, something that can happen. You can have errors in your application. So let's throw an error. Now, I have not made this error yet, but let's go ahead and make some error to throw. which conforms to error, like so. Now notice it says that there's an issue. So the error is not handled because enclosing function is not declared throws. Well, that's easy enough. So you do throws, okay? There we go. Everything subsided. Let's go back, Swift run. Let's see what happens when it throws an error. All right, there it is. I'm gonna take that error out though, because what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna do a call out to the internet and then see what the response is from that call. So how can we do that? Well, we're gonna use Foundation, okay? And Foundation comes with a session. So we have a URL session, and we use shared, and we want the data for a URL request. So what we'll do is we'll create a request object for a URL request, and that's going to be given a URL object there. So we'll call this our to-dos URL. So URL, it's going to be from a string, okay? I got a nice little string ready for us to go. To-dos URL. There we go. Now, the only other thing it's telling us is that URL is optional from the string, so I know I'm going to form it correctly, so we don't have to worry about that. Let me put that string in here. I just got a string from the JSON placeholder. I'll put that a link in the description, so if you want to try it out yourself, you can. All right, and let's put it in here. Okay, nice. Now, what else is broken here? Well, if we were to try and build, these are definitely syntax errors, so we need to handle that. The one thing that it's trying to tell us, which is, can't do it without a try. So we'll put try in front of there. And since this already is a throwing function, that's going to satisfy that part of the compiler. But what's the next thing? Oh, it's an async call is not supported in this function. Okay. So how do we annotate that? We say async throws. All right, great. Now it's saying we need to await it. So try await. Great. So we should have fixed that. What's the next thing? All right, so data and says for delegate. Now delegate is an optional parameter of this function, and we could pass a nil, or it is also the default value for the parameter, so we won't pass it in at all. It is telling us that it needs at least macOS 12. So let's do that. That's going to be back at our package.swift. And we do platforms, which is an array. And these are all enums, so it's easy to just do macOS. And then what is the supported version? Well, we do dot, and we get, here we go, version 12, like so. All right, back at our source file, we should be ready to go. So now it's saying the results of this are not being used, but let's just go here and let's print out this last thing here, which it says should have finished. Okay, so we have something here that prints out should have finished. Let's try this. So Swift run. Ooh, okay. So now we're having problems. See where it says build of type YouTube complete, but then it just says usage. So that's a little weird, right? There's something going on here. It actually is not picking up this run method on the struct. And that is because we need something that is parsable, but we need to know that it's an async function. So whatever's running this code needs to wait around for any of the children tasks should complete. So in this case, what we need to do, let's get the data out of here. The second part of this tuple that's returned is actually a response. We don't need to know that. But let's print out the data. Debug description. Now, it still is not going to work. And this is the next part here. So we had no build errors, right? But you need an async parsable command, which gives us the correct async signature, which will then pick up from the compiler that this is the right run method to call, gets our code in there, and then actually runs it. So what we should see are these last two print statements where it prints something about the data and then something about finishing. So Let's do that. Swift run. Yeah, so there it is. It actually did not, show us some sort of like how to use the application or doing the help. So here we have the data, so many bytes, and then should have finished. So great. So let's take that out of there. Let's make this a string. So we'll do string. We'll do data for the data with an encoding of UTF-8. All right. And we'll print this out. We'll do string. And what we'll do is we'll do a string of describing the debug, or actually just the regular description, like so. Oh, and it's not string, it's str, stir. So this should be good. Let's try this. Let's run it. See what happens. We got some JSON. So that's pretty cool. Now, I know we're going to get JSON from this, so I'm going to go ahead and force unwrap this. Let's run again. There, it's a little bit more of a pretty output. It actually puts in the new lines there. And because I have that, I actually don't need this string description wrapper here that I have. But yeah, this is all we need to get things going. And we're printing out the string that comes from the URL. Now, the next part is how do we parse this so that we could take in any URL and print out whatever the string is from it. So there's a special property wrapper here, argument. And what we'll call it is just the URL. And it'll be of type string. String, there we go. So now watch this. When we try to run, so we'll do Swift run. Now it's saying it's expecting this argument URL. So what do we want to put in the URL? We want to put in this part. So let's do this like so. We just put in the URL here. This is more the URL string that we're getting from the command line parameters. So with that, let me copy and paste this over here to the first argument. So Swift run. Now try this. Just put in the HTTP, this string here, see what happens. Well, now it's going to say there is no product named or no executable named, and then this URL string. So the package, let's go back here to the package, is named YouTube, and the executable is called YouTube. So what we need to actually do is use that in our Swift run now if we want to use these parameters. Okay, so if I did Swift run and then I put in YouTube, the name of the binary, all right, still needs a URL. Okay, that's no problem. I'm going to put in the URL here. I'm pasting it. Let's see what happens. All right, cool. So yeah, it built the application for debugging, and then it did our regular print that we have here on line 11, did how many bytes, and then it printed out the string as a pretty JSON here. Now that we have this here, let's do Swift run YouTube, and let's do a different website. Let's do google.com. Let's see what comes up here. There we go. So this is actually HTML, and you can tell because we have the doc type here, and then we have our opening node here, which is an HTML node, and we could look at the rest of this here, and it's got some JavaScript in there too. And then we got here down at the bottom, HTML, the closing tag. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you, how to get started with a command line application in Swift and doing it from scratch. So we went all the way from creating the package to adding dependencies, looking at the errors that came out, fixing them, and then even doing an async parsable command so that you can do network calls and stuff like that and work with Swift modern concurrency. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend. Otherwise, I will see you some other time.